My name is Rick Billingsley. I'm the pastor here at the Connection. And if you haven't met my wife, she's back in the Kid Connect area. I have been blessed with a beautiful wife. If you've seen her, if you've met her, you would know that, both inside and out. I've also been blessed with 3 awesome kids, and they also right now are back in the Kid Connect area. I have Brooklyn, she's 6 years old. The daughter, Adeline, and she is 4 years old. And I've got a son, Josiah, he's 3 years old. So we have a very busy household. And I love spending time with my kids. The last couple of months has been rough for spending time with my kids. But I love spending time with my kids. And one thing that I like to do is I like to try to find out what they like to do, and I do it with them. Okay? What I've found is, for example, my daughters, and ashamedly, I will admit, even my son, they like to dance, okay? My daughters, they go to dance, every week. They go to Council Bluffs to dance, but they love just going in their room. They'll turn their kids' pop CD on, and they'll just rock out, and they'll just dance around. And so what I'll do is I will go into their room with them, and we'll just have a dance party in the room, and I'll dance. And I have only but one dance move, and it's this, okay? And that's all I've got, but I do that. I do that with them, and they love it. I mean, you just watch their faces, and their smiles get huge, ear-to-ear grins, and I can tell at that moment, when I'm doing that with them, I can tell that they're gaining trust in me. Our relationship is developing, and it's growing to kind of a new level. I'm gaining more credibility with them. And I can even, I saw it even more so, I've gone to a couple of father-daughter dances with my kids, with my girls, and there I break out my move, and there it's in a different setting. You see there, it's not just me and my kids closed up in a bedroom, it is me and my kids and all of these other fathers and all of their daughters, and I'm out there breaking out my one dance move in front of everybody. And my girls love it. They love it. And I can see that relationship just developing. See, what happens is when we take the time and the energy to meet people where they're at, what happens is we gain their trust, okay? In the context of being a follower of Jesus, this is how we can be effective at sharing the good news, the truth that Jesus saves, not just you, but He saves your neighbor. He came to save your coworker. He wants to have a relationship with your mom. He wants to have a relationship with your brother. See, Jesus came to save everybody. He wants to have a relationship with everybody. And we want to be effective at telling people that. We are all meant to be sharing this truth with people around us. But what happens is if you're anything like me, you want to be as effective as possible, right? You want to win. Okay, we've got some football players here, right? You guys want to win. So what do you do to win? You go and you're doing weights every morning, aren't you? You're starting to practice, didn't you? How many times a day? You just one a day right now. Did you do 2 days at all? It's illegal now? Well, see, you would if you could, though. You would if you could. You're going to do everything that you can to win, right? So they want to be as effective as possible. When I'm sharing the truth that Jesus loves somebody and Jesus wants to have a relationship with them, I want to be as effective as possible at that. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to look at a man who was quite possibly the most effective in all of history at spreading the truth, the good news that God came to save everybody. This man's name is Paul. Paul wrote about half of the New Testament. The New Testament is the second part of the Bible. The Bible is kind of split up into 2 portions. The Old Testament is everything that happened before Jesus came. It's everything that happened before 2,000 years ago. And then the New Testament is the second part of the Bible. That's what happened after Jesus was born, and then after his death and resurrection, and then what happened in the whole early church. So the Bible's kind of split up into two portions. Well, Paul wrote most of the books that we find in the New Testament, the second half of the Bible. Paul also, not just did he do that, but Paul traveled around to 3 different continents and started dozens of churches. He gave his life, his whole life, to doing this. And so he is quite possibly the most effective man ever at spreading the good news that Jesus came to save everybody. And so when it comes to sharing with others, Paul is pretty much a rock star. So we're going to look at a portion of the Bible where Paul shares his strategy of sharing the good news with others. We're going to look at a book of the Bible called 1 Corinthians chapter 9. If you have your Bibles or your phones, flip them up right now to 1 Corinthians chapter 9. If you don't worry, the words are going to be up on the screen, and I'm going to be reading from the New Living Translation, so if you're reading along in yours and it doesn't match up, that might be why. But this is just a simple version for people to understand. This is a letter that Paul wrote. A lot of the books in the New Testament that we have from Paul are actually letters. Paul would write a letter to one of the churches that he had started after he had moved on. He'd write letters to them to tell them kind of how to act. And so this is a letter that Paul wrote to the church in Corinth. Corinth was a city in the country of Greece, and Corinth was pretty much the most immoral city in all of Greece. Ancient Greece as a whole was known for being an immoral culture. Corinth was the worst of the worst. It kind of, and if you think of like modern day America, this might be comparable to like Las Vegas. If you think of like Europe, this would be like Amsterdam. I mean, this is like Corinth was the most immoral of all of Greece. And so this is Paul's letter to the church in Corinth. And this is what he says in 1 Corinthians chapter 9. We're going to start reading in verse 19. He says, "Even though I am a free man with no master, I have become a slave to all people to bring many to Christ. When I was with the Jews, I lived like a Jew to bring the Jews to Christ. When I was with those who follow the Jewish law, I too lived under that law. Even though I'm not subject to the law, I did this so that I could bring to Christ those who are under the law. When I am with the Gentiles who do not follow the Jewish law, I too lived apart from the law so that I can bring them to Christ. But I do not ignore the law of God, I obey the law of Christ. When I am with those who are weak, what do? I share their weakness, for I want to bring the weak to Christ. Yes, I try to find common ground. Listen to this. I try to find common ground with everyone, doing everything I can to save some. I do everything to spread the good news and to share in its blessings." There are a couple of things that I want us to notice here. First of all, he met people where they were at. Okay, what did it say? He said, "To the Jew, I became like a Jew. To the Gentile," which is people that aren't Jewish, I'm a Gentile. To the Gentile, he became like the Gentiles. To those who lived under the law, he lived under the law. To those who were outside the law, he lived like he was outside the law. He did all of this so that people would begin to trust him, so that he'd have credibility with them. He met them where they were at. Like I was telling you with my kids, I try to meet them where they're at so that I can build that relationship, I can build that credibility, so that I can build that trust. He ultimately wanted them to have a relationship with Jesus. Why? Because he loved them genuinely. When I love somebody, I want the absolute best for them. When I love somebody, I want the absolute best for them. And the absolute best for everybody is to have a relationship with Jesus so that they can spend eternity in paradise. So I want the absolute best for you. So my goal, ultimately, is that I want you to have a relationship with Jesus. But Paul knew something. Paul knew that people wouldn't listen to him without some sort of relationship. Teddy Roosevelt is credited with saying this. He said, "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." Listen to that again. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So, what can we do to meet people where they're at. First of all, we need to know who we're trying to meet, right? For example, the connection exists to connect young families to Jesus and to develop them into fully devoted followers of Christ. Okay, so we are geared for young families. Does that mean we're exclusive? No. But what it means is we do everything that we can to make young families feel comfortable as possible, to let them know that we genuinely care about them. Paul said that he tries to find common ground with everyone. So this includes a few things. When you walked in, maybe you noticed some of these things. Some of them are environmental factors, okay, such as how our facility looks. Okay, now, because of our paint curing this week, we couldn't have our tables here, but our normal atmosphere, all these chairs would be around tables. We're getting our coffee bar in this week. So we kind of have a coffee shop feel. So it's comfortable for people, our environment. Where it is, we're within a block from downtown Glenwood. What refreshments we offer. What kind of coffee we serve, what refreshments we offer, those kind of things. Our worship and our teaching. So we think about what kind of songs are we going to sing? What kind of instruments are we going to use? How is this going to connect with young families? How I teach, what words I use. Believe it or not, I do have a degree from a Bible college. I know and have studied the theological concepts extensively. I've written research papers on them. But I try not to talk like that. Because most people, that means nothing. It's gibberish to them. But honestly, I don't like to talk like that anyway. So the words that I use when I teach and how long I teach and that kind of stuff, what kind of stories I tell, we relate to young families to make them feel comfortable. Our children's and our nursery, our Kid Connect area, what do we offer? Okay? How would a first-time guest feel leaving their child with our volunteers? Every one of our volunteers that can go back into the Kid Connect area has been background screened. They're trained. They've been background screened. Your kids are in a safe, secure area. They're getting lessons and songs that are relevant to them. Okay, so people should feel safe leaving their kids with our volunteers, even if they've never gone to church before. Okay, so how that all looks, what we have offered for the kids, our social media. If you haven't liked us on Facebook, go ahead and like us on Facebook. Check out our website. We have a pretty good online presence in order to attract and to influence the next generation. Here's a key word in all of this. It's investment. We invest financially and with time in doing things for young families with no strings attached. This last year and this coming year, we put on a winter carnival. We'll put it on again this year. We invested a lot of money and time into that, and it's just a free event for families to come and have fun. We invest twice a month during the school year in a Moms and Tots time, where we have it at the Sky High Family Fun Center. Moms and Tots, they come and they get a constructive activity. We do a craft, we do a little story, and then the kids get to bounce and the moms get to chill and drink coffee and talk with each other. And we invest in that twice a month during the school year because we care about young families. For the spring into summer event that happened back in June, we invested in that. We spent time and resources to give another activity for the families to do around the square. We invested and helped raise funds for a family-oriented organization called the NEST program here. They help young mothers that can't afford stuff for their babies, so diapers, and changing tables, and classes, and stuff like that on how to parent. So we invest in stuff like that. We want to show the truth that we genuinely care about young families. So first, when you're looking at this, first we need to figure out the who. And I guarantee you, I promise you, that God has you in a relationship with somebody that He wants a relationship with. Hear that again. God has you in a relationship with somebody that He wants to have a relationship with. He's paired you up already with somebody that He wants to get to know, that He wants to have a saving relationship with. So you figure out the who. Then you figure out how can you meet them where they're at. How can you connect with them and show them that you genuinely care about them. That's the first action step. Now there's one other thing that I want us to look at from Paul's letter. One other thing that I want us to see, and that's from verse 21. This is when Paul says, he says, when I'm with the Gentiles who do not follow the Jewish law, I too live apart from the law so that I can bring them to Christ. But, listen to this is a big but I do not ignore the law of God. I obey the law of Christ. What Paul is saying here is that there are boundaries that we don't cross when relating to other people. I mean, should we go and light up a joint with somebody so that we can build a relationship with them? Probably not, right? Probably not. Paul said that in all of this, he still followed Jesus. So the question that we need to ask ourselves when we're talking about a church, a Christian community, when we're talking about the connection, we ask ourselves is, are my beliefs about how I should act and what church should look like, are they based on Jesus' teachings? Are they based on the truth? Or are they based on man-made traditions? Are they based on my preconceived notions? Are they based on that stuff that kind of floats, that's not absolute truth? We base ourselves on the truth, and all of these man-made things, all of these preconceived notions, we can change, we can alter, we can fluctuate those. Okay? Does the Bible ever say that we have to have pews in a church? No, so we don't. Because they're just not comfortable, let's be honest. Does the Bible ever say we can't drink coffee in church? No, so we drink coffee in church. Things like this, we can fluctuate a lot of things, but we still stand on the truth. Okay? We still stand on the truth. So, what can we change? Here's the action step, the second action step. What can we change in order to relate better with our focus group, while at the same time following Jesus' teachings? What can we do to relate better with them, while at the same time following Jesus' teachings? We have to remember the why in all of this. Paul said the why a few times in there. The why is this: we do this to build that relationship so that, as Paul puts it, we may win a few. We want people to come into a saving relationship with Jesus Christ because that is the absolute best thing for them. Now, let's say I invest in this relationship and the person never chooses to follow Jesus. Does that mean, we forget him? No, because actually I still genuinely care about that person. I still want to have a relationship with them. That's the difference between being fake and being genuine. Is, are you in it for your own motives, or are you in it for their best interests? No. We still invest in those relationships because we genuinely love people. So, here's our next steps. At the end of all my teachings, I'm going to end with our next steps. I never want people to walk away from here asking themselves, what do I do? What do I do? So here's what you do. I'm answering that question right now. First of all, search your heart. Find out who God has called you to minister to. Who has God called you to share the truth with? Who has God put you in a relationship with? Okay, then figure out what you can do to meet them where they're at. Build that relationship. Okay, that's the second thing. Third, through that relationship, share God's message of hope with them. Okay, there's a saying, actions speak louder than words, and that is very true. But at some point in the relationship, you've got to use words. You've got to get to that point to where you say, this is why I have the hope that I have. Because of a man named Jesus. Because I am imperfect. Because I fail all the time. And this guy Jesus died on the cross so that even though I am imperfect, I get to spend eternity with him. And guess what? He died for you too. So that you, with all of your mistakes, you can stand before God and look perfect and pure because Jesus died for your mistakes too. We have to get to that point in the relationship where we use the words and explain why we act the way we act. We're not just another person living a moral life in America. We are a person that has been saved because of the sacrifice of Jesus and because we have chosen to follow Him. We've got to get to that point. Now here's the action step 4. If you are here and you don't have a relationship with Jesus, if you're here and you haven't made that decision to follow Him, if you're here and you don't understand what it means to live a life of pure joy, then your action step is to find me afterwards and talk to me about it, because I love to talk to you about it. The truth is, Jesus died on the cross so that you get to spend eternity with Him in paradise. And so that's the 4th action step. If you haven't done that, find me and I'm going to talk to you.